Hello, friends. Welcome to this live stream. And, today we have a very important subject to discuss, and that is about the first colonization and then followed by decolonization. And we are live across all social media platforms. You can interact with us using your chat functions. You have any questions, any observation, any comment, please feel to submit your questions or your comments without any hesitation. We have a panel of experts also in our show today. I will introduce you to our panel, but first the subject is what is the impact of colonization and what is the impact of decolonization if the world goes through that. So before I proceed further, let me introduce our guest to you. And most welcome, Mr. Sitesh Srivastav, who's joining us from Bangalore, and Kanchan Verma, who's joining us from Delhi. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Thank you, CK.
Thank you so much. It is pleasure to part of this wonderful discussion.
All right. So before we begin our discussion, let me, give you a brief. You see, what has happened in our world today is that colonization, we basically treat this word as a taboo. We think that, the British came, they colonized us. But in my opinion, what I feel personally is that the colonization is part of basically our own civilizational growth. So if you look back in history, what you will find is that all kinds of kings have actually conquered and colonized neighboring states. Sometimes people have gone beyond the seven seas and colonized other countries, other regions, and while doing so, during the colonization, they have tried to get something from that region, what is good practice, and also provided the best practices from their own kingdom to the new conquered world. This has been going on, in my opinion. We will actually go to the expert panel, also take their opinion. For instance, if you look at the Southeast Asia, there is a tremendous influence of Indian kings and queens, Indian kingdoms in the surrounding areas. And obviously, at some point in time, the Indians would have actually gone to Indonesia or South China and must have colonized those lands. And therefore, if you go to Indonesia, Malaysia, you will see so much influence of Gupta dynasty. If you go to Cambodia, today's Cambodia, you will see so much of Hindu influence. And even if you go to South China, even though because of the communist rule, they have eradicated all religious symbol. However, the south of China, which is Shanghai, that area was ruled by the Cholas. All the way from South India, they went all the way up to Cholas. And in fact, if you know, in the today's context as well, the South Korean queen is going to attend the Ram Mandir inauguration because their lineage is from the Sita Mata. So, I mean, this colonization has been going on forever, and how relevant is to decolonize? We are all speaking in English today, and obviously, this English has come from the after effect of the colonization. So, is it relevant? That is the first observation. And before I actually move on, let me invite our first guest, Mr. Sitesh, and take his opinion before we open up the debate. Sitesh.
Well, CK, thank you for inviting me for this discussion. And I think it's a very apt discussion in 2024 that we speak and effects of colonization and the subject decolonization has to be taken in a very balanced view because we are talking about at least 300 to 400 years of our recent planet's history, and none of the lands have been left by the colonial maps and colonial influences. So each of these regions uh, have their own way to, you know, uh, either come out of it or still be part of it. And I think it has to be taken with a pinch of salt. What do you think?
Absolutely. When we say that, we have to decolonize, we have to erase all the memories of the past. People came as conquerors, they basically plundered our land. But look at the reality, Sitesh. In my opinion, there was an Islamic colonization which has happened across the world, still going on. And there is a word called jungle in English vocabulary. There is something called bazaar. They talk about it. And if you go to UK, you will know, garam masala and chicken tikka. You will hear across everywhere in every street in UK. So obviously, because the British came to India and colonized us, but they also took something from us when it comes to culture, and we have also taken inputs from them also. So it's like a mixture of two cultures which has happened. Now, if we have to say we have to decolonize, is it really feasible? Is it really possible? What do you think, Sidesh?
Well, as I said, we live in a world which is defined by the last 100 or 200 years. And those 100, 200 years have a little bit layer of going back to another 200 years, let us say the 16th century onwards. And therefore, it is actually very complicated to, peel off all the layers of colonization and figure out a brand new identity. So all I will try to argue is that if we have to figure out if all of those colonized lands, if they have to figure out a brand new identity, the definition cannot be standard. Each of those regions have to be finding out their definition of the brand new identity, whether it can be erased or not. It is very hard to say in this digital world where things are recorded. And scars are still seen in many places still in 2024. So my my view is that we must take a balanced view with the confidence of building a new brand. The colonialization, which came in around 300 years in the various parts of the world, will take another 200 to 300 years to completely get erased. That's my view.
All right. So Sitesh is of the view that there could be possibility of decolonization, but it will take a lot of time. That is his view. So let's go to our second expert, Kanchan, and take her opening statement before we actually start talking about the various aspects around colonization. So Kanchan, welcome to the show. What is your opening statement?
So, yeah, I would say that the colonization and decolonization both are the aspect of human development. And when we are talking about colonization, of course, that impacts not only the land. Same time they also got independence. That's what we say from, and that is why that is the way to become decolonized, like Egypt in 1956, British in from British we Indians at 1947, and Korea war. After the war in 1945 they got independence from Japan. At the same time, Vietnam, French, they got freedom, decolonization from 1997. So it is a crucial, what I feel, if you are taking a view of a positive aspect, definitely it's an intermingling of cultures, people, the effect. Because if we go with our own Indian ethos, that is Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. But when we are talking of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, that means we are talking about the well-being of people. But when we discuss about the colonies and decolonization, there is a greater part negative effect also which are involved in these kind of patterns of ruling. So I will say depends, because there are this is when you talk about decolonization. So first of all, we have to understand what is a decolonization. So that means we are coming out of the colonies, and some struggles, as if I can say, is still violent and infused by nationalism, and you can find out these aspects in any kind of independence struggle. At the same time, there are some decolonization which is gradual and peaceful. So definitely there is a concept which is should widely debated, so that there should come out understanding exactly and how this whole term and this whole process is affecting us.
All right. Great, for the opening, your opening statement, Kanchan. So now we'll open up this debate, and we will go to our first burning question, and that is, how much India suffered because of the colonization and subsequent decolonization? What is the opinion of our expert? How much India suffered? Obviously, we all know that India suffered big time because of colonization, and we are still trying to overcome that. We are trying very hard to overcome that. So we have to first understand what has gone wrong here. So, how much India suffered because of colonization? Let's go to Sitesh and take his opinion. Sitesh, can you hear me, Sitesh? Can you hear me, Sitesh?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, so the question, Sitesh, is how much we suffered because of colonization. This is about India. How much India suffered because of the colonization?
Well, uh, CK and Kanchan, this is very well documented about uh, uh, the British or the East India companies coming to this land and setting up a business as a trading post. And then, in 100 years or so from the Shah Jahan's time, till the Battle of Plassey, and they completely took over, and then it became, under the British Empire. I would say it we will find people who talk about the larger impact of the colonialization that we had, and the ones who completely uh, see it as a something that should have been thrown out in the beginning itself. But my thinking is, through my readings, I feel that when the British East India Company had taken over, we were still part of the Mughal Empire. And the Mughal Empire, after the 1707, it was almost like dying day by day, month by month, year by year. So the leftovers of the Mughal Empire and the people who, were there in the subcontinent, it was not easy for them to oppose the new way of living, which is the British, way of living. And so from 1757 onwards, we see a lots of Mughal smaller kingdoms, smaller leaders falling away, and the British taking control one by one. So the Indian populace or the subcontinent populace for the first 100 years after 1757 really did not understand or figure out what was happening to them from the Mughal way of living, which was more like a feudal. The British way of living was more like a participatory in the social life. But for the first 100 years up to 1857, it was actually very hard to figure out what was happening. From 1857, we see that some of the well-to-do families, their children, and some bright students from India actually got access to the British education, and they go and then they understand, and then they start realizing what is happening in the rest of the world. And then we see from 1880 onwards, slowly the movement started of, nicely saying about the people and the welfare things, and then slowly it takes over a shape of a protest, and then it became some of the very painful events in our history. So you know what I think is that the solution cannot be found the day you discover that some place has been colonized. First, it has to be understood in the context of the days, the opportunities available to people, the opportunities available to the youth, and the opportunities available to finance the ideas of those days. So, while we could have discovered the colonialization somewhere around 1920, somewhere around First World War, it was not easy. It could not have been thrown out in 1 day, 1 year, or maybe 10 years. So it took its time. And we all know, CK, that 1947 was just a year that happened for our independence. It could have been earlier, maybe 2 or 3 years earlier. Right? What do you think?
Absolutely. In fact, not 2 to 3 years earlier. In fact, Shri Subhash Chandra Bose raised the flag in 1943. You know, but even from before that point, there was a acting government in Bengal, which was being managed by the Indian minister reporting to the viceroy. So, what was the reason for delaying the independence? Don't you think so? There was no reason to delay the independence.
So one that was there was no reason, but at the same time, as I said, uh, the history of the countries, the timelines of a nation or a subcontinent is not like a timeline of one individual like me and you. We live our lives, 80, 90, 100 years, and we go on. But for generations, for geographies to move, for histories to be made or, unravel, it takes a lot of time. So while 1943 or even 1940 would have been a good year for our independence, but again, the maturity of our leaders in those days, the assessment would have been done by the British powers, and not just British powers, but also the international powers. So that maturity, at the top of it, we have seen from the history that when you reach at the pinnacle, you have to snatch it. Nobody gives you on a plate the freedom, so one has to snatch it. So I think that readiness was basically propelled after Second World War more. And also, we know that the economics of Europe was dwindling very fast. All the Axis powers and the allies, there was a lot of economic distress, which also put made it faster for India to gain or achieve the freedom.
All right, Sitesh. So thank you for your views. Let's go to Kanchan and ask the same question, which is how much India suffered because of colonization and how much India would suffer because of subsequent decolonization. Kanchan, over to you.
Okay. Okay, it's a interesting question, and I think somebody who is listening understand that we really suffered immensely due to this colonization, because extreme poverty very much, because earlier India used to be called as a Soni Kichadiya, a kind of a prosperity which was there in India and this land. But when we are talking about colonization, definitely extreme poverty we have witnessed our forefathers, and we should understand the kind of suffering they have undergone due to these kind of colonization by Britishers. If you see the calculation, the British has taken up around $45 trillion of loot from India between 1765 to 1938. So this is a kind of a very major impact on Indian economy, Indian people. Now, unemployment, because there are many things which Britishers have started and that created unemployment among the youth of India at that point of time. And it took really long time to recover. A part of this lack of education, they were not interested in any kind of education as far the Britishers are concerned. They just wanted people to work like an animal. They just want to take the advantage of the Indian people. So that is a major concern. At the same time, there were many industries which were destroyed by Britishers. They are some indigenous, which is those industries which are actually India-centric. They were destroyed by Britishers. And of course, when we talk about caste system, that is also being given enhancement in British Raj. If you see from the antiquity, our nation is not actually caste based. The caste is only a demarcation of the people by their profession. But later on in this decolonization, there are opposition and conflict, both were on rise. And definitely when there's a caste system, it will lead to this religious conflict too. So religious has taken up a major position, center stage for many people in India, and you can see the kind of division of India between India and Pakistan. So this is kind of an after effect of religious. A part of this, there's gender based, though gender based is already coming from Muslim environment. But if we open up our books, our religious books, our Upanishad, there was no gender, there was always a gender equality. But gender equality also suffered due to this colonization. And when we have that very major impact on human rights, this is also a part of colonization. And it goes without saying that many people, many refined, many uh, good people were killed by this during this colonization by Britishers. Now you also, Chandrakant, asked about impact of decolonization. Definitely, we had done a series of movement. Mahatma Gandhi was the forefront of this movement, a part of many more freedom fighters who have added, who have given their contribution. But when we are talking about decolonization, it was, I feel, is equally challenging, because definitely new political order has come. Then there was a new social order which was also created, and which was quite new when we actually analyze the past of India, the tradition, the custom. There's a new social order also being organized. And division, it goes without saying, division of nation. We have divided into Pakistan and Bangladesh. So that is also after effect of colonization. Eventually, decolonization also carried forward this impact. And conflict, Because if we are talking about religious, caste-based conflict, even today we are having these kind of conflict. And one thing which has definitely, I feel, is important and it's good news, which is economic growth. Yes, we have come a long way when we are talking of economic growth. So this is few points which I feel are crucial.
Great, Kanchan. Let me go to Sitesh quickly, and let's revisit the next question that we have. And that is, are monarchy still relevant in present scenario? Because we know, Sitesh ji, that there are still a few countries which are still having monarch as the supreme governing bodies, like Thailand, for example. Even though UK has a monarch, but they are not supreme at the moment. Yet there are few more countries which are having monarchs. So, are the people living comfortably in those countries like Middle East, Thailand? There are a few more. Is it relevant, or everybody has to become democratic? What is your opinion?
Well, CK, like we go to buy our apparel, no one size fits all. We have medium, we have large, we have XL, we have double XL. Similarly, uh, for our daily life also, you know, we buy things which are, good for our office, our corporate life. Similarly, I would say the, you know, how people would like to be governed. There has been never a one size fits all formula. And we have seen the last maybe thousands of years. When we had emperors, we had, kings of smaller regions, then we had emperors of big, big geographies. Then we had, the Egypts, the pharaohs, you know, but in the modern world from 1600 onwards or 1500 onwards, a different kind of a world order was seen across the world. The old kings gave way to the new, structure where they became, in many places, just titular heads. And they were governed by a council of ministers, and the head of the council of ministers was called a king. From there on, from the late 18th century BC or the 17th century, when the United States of America was found out of the Great Britain 13 colonies in 1776. So we see, something called democracy, and which, around the same time, French Revolution also happened. American Revolution was inspired by the French Revolution. And then we see some other countries, the Spanish America being broken, the Portuguese America, being cut from the mainland Europe. And we also see the British Empire, where 2/3 of the planet was under one Union Jack. So again, we figured, as the history has told us, socialist, communist, democratic, pacifist, and dictatorship, and the military rule, as well as the monarchy, all have coexisted in the modern world. And if you go to Thailand, it is still the king who is revered by the people, even though the political changes happen and all kinds of things happen. But the king is the reverend king. Similarly in Japan also, the monarchy remains. And Britain, we have seen last year, uh, when our Prince Charles became, the King Charles, right? So again, democracy works well for us. It has worked well for India for last 75 years, and I think uh, it's a very unique thing to happen. But again, it is the choice of the people. this country, which we call our India, it has seen all. It has seen emperors, it has seen kings, and in portions in the modern world, it has also seen socialism after independence. Then it from 1991 onwards, we are seeing a kind of a capitalism happening. Markets getting opened up in a democracy. So I think it works very well for us. Democracy works very well for us in India, but it might not really greatly work for China. But if you see, China is a communist country, but capitalism under the garb of communism, right? One party rule. But you see the Russia, so things, there cannot be a single order, and it has never been, and it will never be. So while we are moving towards the AI-driven world, where we see the bots will start ruling us one day, so probably when the bots will be free of bias, we might see one structure across the world. But not as long as we have the bias of color, people, caste, religion, land, resources, importance of those resources, strategic importances, whether it is Africa, whether it is South America or Australia for that matter. So no one size fits all. That's my submission.
Absolutely, Sitesh, very well said. There is no single ideology that can govern us all the time. So, all right. So, we have few viewers also watching us, Yasmin Khan and Karen. Karen, welcome to this live stream. Yasmin Khan also. If you have any questions, any observation, feel free to pitch in anytime. All right. Let's quickly move to the next question that I have. And very difficult subject, very difficult question. The question is, what is your opinion about British monarchy? Sitesh, you would like to go for it?
Well, CK, I think we are not ruled by them, and therefore, what happens in Britain remains in there. What happens in India is our, governing matter. And I think it's the way it is, it has transitioned to the present thing. More openness will be seen. Who would have believed that a practicing Hindu will become the prime minister in the United Kingdom? And therefore, I think and they have moved out of the European Union as well. So, and they're doing well, I believe. So, I think the people of Britain will actually, figure it out. What do you say?
Well, in my opinion, Sitesh, they have lost relevance to be a monarch because more and more people, I'm just talking about the mainstream media, more and more people are saying that the exchequer money is being used to support one family. I think there is a lot of issues like that because they have the very prime real estate, but completely funded by the exchequer's money of UK. But I think I agree with you. The people will figure it out. Personally, I feel that any monarch should have some target of his own. For example, if you compare each monarch, they are different. If you compare the King of Malaysia, King of Malaysia has his own target. He's running companies and he's running real estate companies. If you look at the monarch which are based in Middle East, they are all like an entrepreneur. They are running something and they are responsible for profitability, etc., etc. They are, running a strategic business. Even though they are small countries ruled by monarch, but On the whole, it looks like their existence is very strategic. Their decisions are strategic, moving along with the time. Whereas in the case of UK, the parliament is running the show, which is elected by the people, and monarch is sort of redundant. That is my personal opinion. And in the end, what Sitesh, I will go with what you said, is that the people of UK will figure it out what they have to do with that. So fully on board with that. So quickly, let's move on. And I think we can skip this question because I think that is already answered. It's about the Danish monarch. The last is, do you think the world will completely emerge out of after effect of colonization? This is a $1 million question. That is why it is coming at the last. Sitesh, your opinion on this?
Well, CK, I think more than the after effects of the colonization for the people, the geography, and the mining of the resources, I think it is the decolonization of the knowledge that should happen. When I say decolonization of knowledge, I mean the education system, the thought process, to bring about the greatness of the lands that were once ruled, and thus the history was, suppressed in many parts of the colonial world in across the planet. It is very important to do the decolonization of the knowledge, and I think in the world, a digital world, and the internet, Google world that we live today, and also with our chat GPTs and the generative AI, it is important and it should be taken as a large assignments to decolonize the knowledge from each of those colonized nations, whether it is Cyprus, whether it is North America, or it is Brazil, or China, all of this, New Caledonia, Falkland Islands, or any one of the countries in the Spanish America. See, it is very important to decolonize. So I'm sure the current generation of politicians, current generation of think tank, current generation of scientists, intellectuals are trying to do away with the knowledge and the thought process gained over the colonial part of their histories. And they are trying to slowly decolonize. And this will happen. This will happen, may not be in our lifetime. But, if we come back to see after a few centuries, CK, me, you, and Kanchan, if we are back on this planet with the memory of today's conversation, we might see that people have forgotten. But then we would see a new kind of, the colonial world with the superpowers of those days. The old, when in my travels in Africa, the old colonial powers are technically gone, left, but literally they are there. And that's why we have the Francophone Africa, the Western Africa, speaking the French nations. I was in Zimbabwe a few months back. It still has a lots of British thought process and the historical play points which are being discussed. South Africa also, the key points of their history of apartheid some 25, 30 years back. So these discussions will keep happening. But I think slowly the new generation will realize that, like every country's history, of every part, history will guide the local population. And my sincere, endeavor is that we should decolonize the knowledge or the wisdom that we gain during the colonial times. And I think this will see at least our 2 generations from now, they will see a different kind of a world, right? I mean, that's what I feel.
Absolutely, Sitesh. So great, to know about your opinion and also sharing your great knowledge with us and also our viewers. We'll go to Kanchan real quick and take her opinion on some of these aspects before we close.
Well, I agree a few parts of Satish when he's saying he's a kind of neutral because monarchy actually is kind of people centric. But I feel that monarchy is not suitable because the kind of urge or impulse of freedom for human race is really, really very powerful. So I feel that relevance of monarchy is now actually gone. And when all AI is coming, when all scientific inclusion in the day-to-day life is coming, people looking towards more and more freedom. So, and I think democracy or any other aspect or political establishment will be boosted in near future. And monarchy, I think, is a medieval concept, and I feel this depends entirely on people, of course. But and as I told Sitesh, that I agree few part of the argument of Sitesh when it says people centric, but it is kind of dying concept, political concept, and I feel I stick to this idea, and I feel that people are they are looking towards more freedom, and because that is kind of inbuilt aspect of human race, and they have really a very profound impulse of freedom. And where when you are talking about decolonization, the itself came up in Second World War by Algerian by the name of Franz Fanon, who is first time used decolonization, and this is a kind of profound impact in his speeches and his philosophy, and that is being carried by people like me and you and other people when we are talking about freedom and decolonization.
Wait a minute. So Karen is saying, I agree, Kanchan. Karen is watching us live. And so thank you, Karen. I think we have come to the end of our discussion. And thank you, Sitesh. Thank you, Kanchan, for, joining this live stream and informing us about the views about this very, very chronic subject. And that this is a subject which cannot have any resolution. This is a subject which we are discussing so that if the entire world, if you look at the USA, when the USA was formed, they were called colonies. So colonization is not really a bad word. It's basically it's a reality. The whole point, we are trying to bring across is that the colonization is a reality. It has been going on forever, and it will continue also. So. And thank you, Karen. You are saying a great discussion. So thank you so much for your compliment, Karen. If you have any questions from our expert, feel free to convey your question and we can respond quickly, Karen. All right, your name is also getting displayed on the screen, as you can see, Karen. So the whole point is that colonization is not really a bad thing because this is a reality. And when the colonization happens, the two society, two civilization intermingle, and they actually take the rub-off effect of each other, and they grow together. Many things have happened in the world today. The colonization of America, which basically created the base of USA, the colonization of India, it basically resulted in India emerging as a democratic country, even though the democracy has been in India for last 3,000 years. And many things happened here. And similarly, if you look at the colonization of other countries, like, for example, Vietnam by French people, Philippines by Spanish, and then South America by Spanish. And as a result, everybody speaks Spanish, and whoever does not speak Spanish speaks Portuguese. So many things have happened because of colonization, and because of this colonization, we are a global village. We are a very well connected world today. So let me go to the room again and say thank you to all our panelists. Thank you, Sitesh, and thank you, Kanchan, for joining us today. We will catch you again in the next program, next heart-provoking discussion.
Thank you, CK. Thank you, Kanchan, and thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, all the viewers.
All right. So we have come to the end of our discussion, friends. But we will bring another thought-provoking subject next Saturday. Until then, please subscribe our channel and also share any subject you want to basically to talk about, us to talk about, and do analysis. We will do all that and bring in front of you. So thanks for joining us live, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.